Let's go to Melbourne, ladies and gentlemen. Miles Davis is about 10, 15 minutes away. Nick, what a pleasure to have you on the program, man. Here you are. You're the general manager of the Rebels. You're sitting fifth in the table at the moment. How good's that? Fourth in the table,
well,
sorry.
Martin, mate, fourth. I was going to say you better get that right. Hey, no, it's good. No, listen, we're happy. It's the halfway mark of the season for us, 8 games in, so we're just over it. And to be sitting fourth is good, but we're very realist around the fact that we've got a pretty tough back half of the year. So we've got to continue to improve and develop our game so we can, be prepared when we play the likes of the Crusaders in 2 weeks' time.
Jeff Parks, who I know you know, was telling us, he said, look, it's no great surprise. He said that the foundation has been in place for a while and this team is expected actually to perform.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously everything that went on, going on off the field with regards to the future of the club sort of, deflected a little bit from, the fact that we've been building over the last 3 years with some really clear strategy around how we wanted to play the game, the style of player that we wanted to recruit, and the culture development within the group. So we really felt coming into this year it was going to be a good year for us. And listen, we've had some ups and downs, and I'm sure we're going to have a few more through the last sort of 6 games for us. But we're really happy with the actual, game coming together and the results, most importantly.
At the start of the what was the bare minimum for you? Was it making the finals, or was it finishing whereabouts on the table?
We've got a little saying Kevin's brought in from the start of the season, was that we want to be the greatest Rebels team ever. And now I know you can interpret that how you want, but no Rebel sides played finals yet, so that was something we wanted to chase down really hard. And then you make the finals, you want to do well in the finals. So we haven't come out and said we want to win, we want to come fourth, we want to come whatever, but we want to be the best team of all time for the Rebels, and let's see where that takes us.
Well, you've had 5 wins, 5 great wins, and you've had 3 losses, and they've been beltings too. So how do you balance that up?
Oh, listen, Martin, mate, I've been in professional rugby from when it went pro, so I've been through a lot of ups and downs, and I can tell you now what we're going through at the moment is the most unique situation I've ever been in. The round 1 game, which we're totally shattered at, it was only a week before that. The CEO, 10 other employees had been let go on the spot with regards to the administration process, and the mood within that group coming in that first round was just like I've never seen it. And then even the Reds game, we felt we were coming into that on the back of a couple of wins, but then, a few things popped up off the field. We had a player pull out on the day of the game. And so the distractions and the emotions can really knock us around quite a bit. So, yes, we've had some big losses, but there's also been a few things outside of that that's affected those losses. So hopefully we've learnt from those. Hopefully we're in a bit more stable situation now, and we can, and also now I think we're defending better as well, which helps to stop those big losses. But we've got to keep grinding hard in those spaces.
Nick, how do you divorce the off-field stuff, from the on-field stuff? How easy or not is that to do as the GM?
You can't. It's at times you think everyone's tracking along really well, and but the reality is, you go to bed at night and you've got staff that are only contracted for another 2 months. We're uncertain about what's happening. The players, if a lot of players are on 2-year deals, and they're going, well, am I still playing for the Rebels next year? Am I moving clubs? Am I getting a release? There's just so many emotions going on that you can't pretend it's not there. It's real. We talk about it. We encourage the players and staff to be open and honest with each other and communicate, because that's all you can do in these times of uncertainty. So, it's very difficult, mate. It really is. And I'm just lucky we've got some really experienced staff, and probably most importantly, we've got some really good people within the organisation, both in the playing group and staffing, which is creating an environment of support and love in terms of trying to get through this.
Is the franchise, is the team going to be alive after this season?
That's the question I can tell you a lot of people in Melbourne would love to know. Listen, it's difficult because it's just not a straightforward decision. There's an administration process going on at the moment. The pleasing thing, I think, for everyone in Melbourne is that there is a consortium led by an incredible businessman, Lee Clifford, in Australian circles, is just so well connected. And so, they're proposing a future and a sustainable future going forward. So that's provided a lot of hope to the players and the staff and the Victorian rugby community. So, we'll just got to wait and see what happens in discussions with the administrator, with Rugby Australia, and probably it's part of the bigger picture of what Super Rugby looks like in 25, 26 and beyond.
Is there a possibility that the franchise might have to move out of Melbourne?
No, we won't move. It'll either be we're shut down or we're operating out of Melbourne.
In terms of trying to get a foothold in that marketplace, rugby is tried, and we see it with the Super Round every year, and the crowds are disappointing. And look, I know it's an AFL town, but even the Melbourne Storm have struggled at times, and you've got a couple of A-League sides there that have great local derbies and things. I mean, it's a fantastic sporting city, but how difficult has it been to try and get a rugby foothold?
Oh, we've got a really strong rugby foothold in Victoria. We've got some communities in Victoria and Melbourne that are so passionate about their rugby. But listen, to be honest, Melbourne's a big city, and some of those fans, they don't come into town to the stadium. It's hard for some of them to get in there, and so the actual turning up to games is something that, while crowds might only be around 5,000, 6,000, the stadium looks pretty empty, and it's more of a thing. Does a big stadium suit a lot of rugby teams now? You've only got to look at games in New Zealand as well, mate.
Very true.
People aren't turning up as much. So, Melbourne there's more professional sporting teams in Melbourne, in the city of Melbourne, there is in any other city around the whole world. So it is a very condensed marketplace, but we do have a really strong footprint in certain parts of Melbourne and the Victorian rugby community. We actually produce a lot of Wallabies. We produce a lot of players, local players, coming through into the Super Rugby ranks, not only just in Melbourne. Some of them play in Fiji and Pacifica and Brumbies. So we actually do produce a lot of players. It's just, I think, it's a thing for the whole of rugby. What is the business model now moving forward with the changing in habits of fans with coming to games? So one of the things that the consortium suggested is actually moving out to this new city it's a city in Melbourne, but it's an expanding city in Melbourne that's going to have 500,000 people in it by 2040. There's a A-League soccer side there. They've got a little boutique, sort of temporary, sort of 5,000 seat stadium now, but they're building one that'll be finished in 3 years' time, which will be a 15,000 seat stadium, and something like that's probably more appropriate to where we are with the support of rugby in Australia and New Zealand for the smaller games. Listen, when the All Blacks come to Melbourne, right, we sell out the MCG, one of the biggest sporting stadiums in the world. So we can fill the stadiums out when there's the big games, but it's the Super Rugby model that we really need to look at, and how do we create it to be very sustainable moving forward.